Teaching with AI is an incredible opportunity for professors, instructors, K through 12, everybody involved. It gives a lot of opportunity, but with that opportunity also comes the other side. Everything is a dichotomy, if you will, and we're here to chat about teaching with AI.
Yeah, everything's really different. It's a whole new world. And I know from my teaching, I'm having to relearn a lot of things, and it's an exciting time. It's also kind of scary and unknown. So I'm excited to jump in and talk more about that.
Oh, I love the way you said you're relearning. So I'm Dr. George Hanshaw. I'm the Director of Digital Learning Solutions here at Los Angeles Pacific University. And I'm chatting with Dr. Brant Himes, one of our professors at Los Angeles Pacific University. And Brant has a lot of experience teaching with AI. So how about, can you introduce yourself to everybody, Brant?
Yeah. So I've been teaching at LAPU for quite a few years, actually, since 2011. And I teach in our Bible courses, religion, and also our history courses. So I'm in the humanities, and it's been really interesting to see in the last couple of years this switch and this change with AI. I actually also taught a graduate course for another university last winter about online learning in a digital age and AI and the image of God and these other kind of broader questions that we deal with, particularly in when we're thinking about AI and ethics and all these things. So it's a very broad, interesting topic. Yeah.
That's cool. So you have a ton of experience that you're going to share with everybody today because you've been in the front lines, as the title says,
Sure.
teaching with it. So do you even remember teaching before the time of
I
AI?
do. I do. I remember all of the grammar and spelling errors that I would have to see. And now those have just disappeared because our students are using AI, Grammarly, and other things to turn in really polished work, which, at first, and I'm still kind of adjusting to what do I do with all these papers without grammar errors? It's because that's the low hanging fruit that has been grading for so long is, I can spot mistakes and I can fix those, and students will learn a little bit where to put commas and whatnot. But that shouldn't really be the point of what we're doing, right? Like, we're not in higher ed to fix grammar. um, and it's been an adjustment and a paradigm shift that those things are now going away and disappearing more, and that's good. And at the same time, it's scary because I'm reading the most polished papers I've ever read before, and yet my um, sometimes my confidence in actually knowing what the students are learning is less because the work is so good. I don't know where it's come from. It's come from AI, maybe not. I don't know. And that's kind of the new world that we're in. And what does it mean for me as a professor to be able to assess their learning in a new paradigm?
Right. So are they learning? Because we don't want just back and forth with AI. That'd be kind of pointless, as you
Yeah.
were saying. So what's kind of interesting to me is we've leaned into it, and one of the things, and we're going to go deeper into this later on in the conversation, but we're talking about the student's authentic voice, having the student write
Yeah.
with their authentic voice and kind of
Yeah.
not going in and being and not penalizing for that comma being in the wrong spot.
Right.
Because with AI, they could go into Grammarly or
Yeah.
something like that and just, okay, click, click, click.
Yeah.
Everything's in the right place, everything's spelled correct. So we're
Right.
trying to focus in that history course you're building right now,
Hmm.
that authentic voice. Can you kind of
Yeah.
speak in that a little bit?
Yeah. I really like how we've been leaning into that idea because, I mean, obviously, we want our students, particularly in a professional environment, you want to write and communicate in a way that is clear and that is kind of error free as much as possible. But at the same time, we don't want students to feel like they have to sound a particular way or sound like a robot, to put it bluntly. And so how do we continue to cultivate this idea of your unique voice in a way where in a time with AI where it's so easy for that voice to kind of get buried and the kind of perfectionism that AI can make our writing look and sound. And that means at times giving students permission to not have perfect grammar, in the right
Right,
kind
right,
of context, in the right place. Discussion forums, for example, can be a good place to not have to require this strict kind of perfectly, formatted responses. And so, yeah, it's this idea of giving students permission to find their voice and speak into that voice, and then learn how to have the balance of maybe using those AI tools to improve, some of their syntax, but
right.
realizing that doesn't have to be the most important thing. I remember several years ago, before all this AI stuff was on, I was at a writing workshop, and I still think about this. We got this worksheet as the 10 writing priorities. And when you're teaching writing, it's the kind of the 10 things that you should be paying attention to in order to teach that. And, grammar and syntax is at the very bottom of the list. First we need to be thinking
Right.
about audience and about, the setting and the structure and the kind of paper or that we're writing. But it's so easy to default, because that's where the voice comes in. When you know who your audience is, you know what you're writing
Right.
for. But it can be so easy to default to things like spelling and grammar because those things jump out at us. But really, even before AI, that jumping to the end of the list kind of is a disservice to students, because it doesn't allow them to develop these broader kind of writing frameworks.
Oh, I
So
love it.
it's, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So when we allow students to use their voice, their own voice, and not just allow it, but kind of uplift it,
yeah,
I think in the age of AI, we're doing them a big service, because they still have to know how to communicate. It can't just
right,
be a chat GPT email going back and
right,
forth, because there's no
yeah,
meaning behind it.
yeah,
Kind of reminds me of The Voice. I've been watching The Voice lately.
yeah, sure.
So you can have that singer that's technically just perfect,
Right.
but it doesn't resonate with the audience, right?
Yeah,
But you have
yeah,
that one singer that might have that little crackle or that little
yeah,
something in their voice that just
yeah,
connects with that audience member and just kind of brings chills
right,
on their skin, right? The
yeah,
same thing with writing. You have to make that connection.
yeah,
And I would argue that that's leadership 101 as well. You
sure,
want to communicate messages that are pertinent to your audience. You're
yeah,
not going to change what the message is, but you're going to change how you communicate it to
right,
an audience to make it important to them. So I
yeah,
think that's a big deal.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I think AI gives us an opportunity, because the grammar stuff can be so easily fixed. And
Right.
those are still, I don't teach writing. I'm in religion and Bible and history and whatnot, but I'm in the humanities, and writing is important for me. But it's also causing me to think about, you know, is writing the end all, and what are the actual school skills and tools, um, and knowledge that I want students to come out of the course with, that maybe they can still get there, but maybe it doesn't have to be through a traditional writing structure, that we've kind of leaned so heavily on in higher ed.
Through different means. I love that. So let's back up let's
Yeah.
put that one. Let's go back to that one in a second, because I want everybody to know that you were one of our instructors in an initial pilot we had with course assistants.
Yeah.
And so you weren't actually you were kind of on the fence. You didn't really They
Sure.
weren't really good, they weren't really bad. So we said,
Yeah.
okay, perfect for a pilot. Brant, would you
Sure.
would you teach in this pilot, because you're not really swayed either way. So
Right.
can
Yeah.
you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah. I remember when the first kind of article I saw, with AI come with, chat GPT coming on, and it was right before we were going to have a faculty retreat. And I was thinking, oh, okay, here we go. Like, this is going to change everything. And, honestly, I'm not usually like the tech early adopter type. I'm just kind of, I'm
Okay.
interested in the tech, but I kind of see how things play out, and maybe I'll get there someday. I don't want to be totally sluggish and behind, but I'm also not usually, on the very front, because I do take often this kind of mediating approach of, trying to see how things are going to go. But as AI had developed, and as a university, we've taken the posture of kind of leaning in and, okay, let's get in and figure this out. And so
Right.
for me, it's an opportunity, to have a bit of probably healthy skepticism, but also realize, all right, there's some good things here. We're asking the right questions. We're aware of the opportunities and the dangers and the pitfalls, and we're going to wade into the muddy waters and try and make a way that can be productive and helpful for our students. And ultimately, can this tool help our students to learn? Because that's what we really need to be focused on. And so it becomes less about my preferences as a professor and more about what do our students need in order to succeed and to learn. So yeah, when I had the opportunity to come on with this pilot, it was like, all right, let's I'm not sure what this is all about, but let's jump in and figure it out.
Let's
Um,
figure.
yeah. And
Well,
then
and that matches
yeah,
our radically student-centered mantra or belief that we have too.
right.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I can it's like dragging your feet. I don't know. I feel like dragging your feet just slows everything down. And then it just creates this kind of angst in you or in myself, as I don't need to speak for everybody, but in myself, I'm going to drag my feet. Then I'm probably going to get left behind. And I don't want to, I don't want to get left behind.
Hey, where'd everybody go? Where is everybody?
Right. Right. So if I can get in and be part of the process, I'd much rather be engaged in part of it than kind of sitting back and getting left behind.
So now,
So yeah,
oh, in the pilot, it was a Bible.
it was a Bible 230. So it was our New Testament course on Luke and Acts. And yeah, I was able to sit into some meetings we had as we were kind of developing this concept and this idea of creating an AI course assistant that was going to be trained particularly on our course material in that class. And so it wasn't just going to pull from random internet information, but we could give it our course material. And then and then it was trained in the Socratic method. So it's not just going to spit out answers, but the course assistant asks questions back to the students to help them figure out their learning. And then, it was interesting, particularly with a Bible course. As I'm getting ready to test this, I'm okay, how's this going to handle Jesus and the Bible and these bigger questions? And man, I was so excited when the course assistant was providing answers to prompts I was asking in a way that I was like, wow, this actually sounds like the course. It had the voice of and that's because we gave it our course material.
Right.
And so it sounded like us because that's what it was using to address the student questions. And so that was really neat to see. We hear these horror stories of the false information and pulling in all this, who knows what it's pulling from on the internet. But when we're able to control that environment with how we're training the course assistant, that then provides a really targeted and unique learning experience for our students to be able to wrestle with our course material, with our voice and our values. It's been really positive.
That's amazing. What was one of the biggest takeaways that you got from that?
Yeah, I think a lot of this is an intro Bible course, and honestly, a lot of our students don't have much experience with the Bible, and it can be pretty intimidating for them. I haven't read it. I don't have anything. I don't know anything about the Bible, so there's nothing. I can't contribute. That fear of, or I'm going to say something wrong. And as much as I, try and cultivate an open environment in the course, which I think I do a pretty good job of, I'm happy with how that goes. But the course assistant then builds off of that even more because it provides this safe place where the student can go to the course, assistant and ask the questions that maybe they're afraid to ask me. I can be as open and inviting and, as I try to be, but I'm still the professor, or there's still this intimidation factor. And even with students in the course, we create really open and welcoming discussion forums, but there still can be a fear. And so
Right.
having a first conversation with the course assistant can help students work out some ideas, maybe affirm what they're thinking, maybe, help them see things from a different perspective. And so it gives them a great bridge to engage in a way. And it helps them also to engage with the course material in different ways, in ways that are really going to focus on the questions that they have, and maybe address some of their particular wonderings or fears or uncertainties. And so I've been excited to see how students have responded to using this course assistant, because I do see a deeper and a better engagement. And it provides me an opportunity. I can have these conversations with students about their questions, and then I can encourage them to chat with the course assistant and to deepen their learning. Because I know it's not just going to give them answers; it's going to do this back and forth Socratic
Right.
method question with them and help them really learn more.
So really, what I took away from that was some really cool stuff. Is first off, it's not there to replace the
Right.
prof. There's no replacing
Right.
Brant. That's just
Let's
not.
hope not. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
it's me. Can you?
There's no replacing you, man. but it's there really as another support system for that
Yeah.
student, and it's, as you stated, it bridges that conversation between you and students that may not connect with you for, oh man, this Dr. Himes is the prof. I don't want to
Yeah.
connect with him. He'll think I'm dumb, or something like that. Because we all have those. I had those thoughts as a student,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, I did too. Absolutely. And the other great thing is it's 24/7, right? So 1 a.m. on Sunday morning, I'm not going to answer their question, but
Right.
but the course assistant's there, and they can talk all night, So it does give them that, we call it kind of this just-in-time support. It's there for them when they need it, because I can't be there all the time.
Right. And it so we're using the technology to kind of create a more human-centered
Right.
learning environment, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't think of that when we were first starting off on this whole journey that we've been on with it. So that's cool. So let's chat about, so then fast forward year and a half to our latest faculty retreat.
Yeah.
You and I had a good conversation about teaching in the AI age, and that prompted us to do some stuff after that.
Yeah. So we've been in this AI, and I had noticed, particularly in the last 6 months, for me in my context in teaching, 6 to 8 months, I just noticed this shift in the kind of work that I was getting, and the kind of interactions I was seeing, even in our discussion forums. And it was becoming pretty evident to me that students finally kind of figured out AI in ChatGPT, and they were just leaning in and loving it and using it to do all their work. And at some point, the discussion forums feel like, oh, the AI bot is talking to the other AI bot, and they're just kind of going back and forth, and it's great answers, and they're all, nice little mini essays in the forums, which is not the point at all, but that's the kind of work that
discussion.
Yeah.
To be an assignment.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it, I think some of it is kind of the novelty of the technology. If it's like, wow, this can do my work for me, that's pretty cool. I think a lot of it also is, particularly, I was seeing this happen in some of my courses that I hadn't updated for a while, and so the assignments were just ripe for AI to work in them. They weren't designed in a way to help students kind of learn with other forms of assessment besides writing, basically. And ChatGPT as a student does writing so well and so quickly that, again, I mentioned this earlier, I was rapidly losing my confidence in knowing what students were actually learning. If they were learning all the stuff I was reading, fantastic. These are the best students I've ever seen. If not, then okay, what's
happening?
What's happening, and how do I get ahead of this? again, sometimes it feels
Right.
like a never ending, like we're never going to get ahead of it. But how can we adjust and harness the technology in a way that can, again, get back to the student learning? If these historical essay assignments, for example, aren't they're great assignments, for a traditional history course, but in this new age, in this new tech era, what are the skills I actually need students to be able to work through and wrestle with? And how can I use AI to help them develop those skills in a way that is more, we talk about being AI resilient. So I'm never going to
Yeah. I love
have
that.
this 100% confidence that, students are not going to use it to do their work, but can we create assignments in a way that uses AI to help kind of AI, make it not as maybe not as tempting or easy
Right.
um, or even interesting to use AI to do the work. Like if we can design an engaging assignment, then maybe they'll actually be engaged.
Right. So we've gone through a whole process
Yeah.
specifically in your history 204 course. So that's
Yeah. It's
US
US
history,
history
right?
from 1865. So Reconstruction era up to the present. We're working
Yeah.
on that right
So
now. Yeah.
we embraced Spark. That's for everybody out there. That's our AI assistant
Yeah.
that uses the Socratic method,
Yeah.
and we had some really cool stuff. And I got to give you a lot of props because you came up with some really great ideas throughout
Thanks.
this process, man. Uh, so Spark to we had the discussions have become a think, pair, share, where
Yeah.
the pair is with Spark with the AI
Hmm.
assistant that's
Yeah. So
specifically trained.
right. So one of my skills I really wanted to help students develop was how to work with primary sources. In history, primary sources are the bread and butter of learning. How to work in history. Those are the sources that are written during the time period, or that are not even written. They could be paintings or photographs or diaries or artifacts or whatever it's going to be. And it's always a struggle. Traditionally you give students some primary sources and then you have them write a paper about it, and AI can do that really well. So if I'm more interested in helping students actually to learn how to find and engage with primary sources, how can I harness the power of AI to help them develop that skill? And so, for example, in our discussion forums, rather than giving them a specific question to answer, it's giving them this task to go out and find a primary source for the topic for the week, and actually giving them some parameters of where to look and how to find good sources, and then having them think through the context of the source and whatnot, and then get together with Spark, the AI assistant, have this conversation, this back and forth to learn more about the source and the context and the issue and the other sides of the debate and whatnot, and then take that learning, bring it to the discussion forum, and hopefully have a really interesting conversation that's more engaging for the student, one, because they're choosing the topic, they're choosing the source, they're still developing um, this understanding of how to work with a primary source and actually
Right.
practicing it by going back and forth. They get this opportunity to practice that skill in hopefully a way that's fun and interesting. And then as they share that with others, and then they're learning from their classmates as well about all these different primary sources that are connected to our topic for the week. Um, so I'm
And that's where
hopeful
you
for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where you added in that's you said we want students to use their unique voice,
Yeah.
but it has to
Right.
be in the right location and discussions. That's perfect for it,
Right. Yeah.
is what you kind of came up with, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I really liked one of our course designers put in, I think, something about voice. And I was like, oh, we gotta lean into that. That's great language to work with. Yeah.
Yes. So hopefully, so we're going to roll this out pretty quickly,
Yeah.
um, and hopefully, we're going to see a difference
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
that that excitement and engagement within the whole learning process.
Yeah. I'm excited. We're also doing in a couple of our forums, we're doing this role play. And so we've training Spark to take on particular personas. I think we give a list of maybe a dozen historical figures that the students can choose from around certain issues, and then they uh, they'll interact with Spark trained as Martin Luther King Jr., for example, and they'll interview or they'll have this conversation with this historical figure through the AI bot, and that will give them this. Hopefully, it'll be an interesting conversation that they'll learn something about, and then they can again bring their learning into the course to share, and even debate with each other based on whatever historical figure that they're taking on.
So increasing critical thinking, because was the assistant correct? And then they get into all of that.
Yeah.
That's going to be,
Yeah.
I'm excited for that one.
Yeah. This is the other, you mentioned, was the assistant correct? This is the other thing I'm kind of excited about. So we know one of the kind of dangers of working with AI is we know it can hallucinate, right? We know that sometimes it'll pull in false information. I know I've worked with it before in some of my research. I can't remember, I was looking for a quote and I knew basically where the quote was, but I was asking, Gemini or something to find it. And it told me, oh, that quote's here. And I was like, no, that's not right. And it took about 3 or 4 times me telling it, that's not right, before it finally kind of put me in the ballpark of where I could find what I was looking for. So we know that this happens. And so in this course, with all the, we've had really good experience with our AI course assistant, but part of this, a skill I want students to learn is about fact checking and about if they kind of developing this skill and having the open eyes of realizing, hey, this maybe doesn't sound right, what I'm reading. Can I check that? And actually giving students some extra credit for finding that. I don't typically do extra credit. But this is an opportunity where if there's that little bit of motivation, like to be on a treasure hunt, and if I can find something that's incorrect, and then bring that to the professor, and that's kind of a fun skill to learn. And we actually created a couple of assignments for students to kind of go on a treasure hunt and find some of these mistakes in their fact checking, just to help them realize that when they're in this AI era, this idea of that's part of the critical thinking, right? Is not just taking everything we read it and we get at face value, but looking for some of these inconsistencies and then being willing to question that and to do some deeper research and find out what the answers actually are. That's a skill that we really want our students to come away with.
And if they master that skill, they're going to be a step ahead of everybody, right? Yeah. That's amazing. And then, so those were some big parts of the process where we leaned into having students utilize AI in a positive way to help them learn, because we call it active learning, where they engage with the primary source or the figure within that time period. So they get to actively engage with that. And that's really cool.
Yeah.
We've never had this ability before.
Yeah. Right? It's pretty amazing. It's pretty neat because it just takes the learning to this different level where instead of kind of trudging through the history textbook, is how can I actually like engage with these people that I'm reading about, or these ideas or these debates, and to be able to have a conversation with Martin Luther King Jr., and ask, whatever questions you want to ask, and then to be able to learn and go back and forth. That's different than just reading about it. So,
and it sticks better when you're engaged with it. It as we like to say, it creates durable learning where they can use it, and remember it sticks. So what advice would you give, or tips would you give educators?
Yeah, I would say don't drag your feet.
No foot dragging.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we are, and I think this I have conversations with students who, that are at the university, and also just with other college students that are at other places that I see around. This is the world that we're in, and how do we how do we really, it's causing me, I said at the beginning, I'm having to relearn some things or be reminded maybe of some things. And it's reminding me to like peel back the layers and really get in and focus on student learning. And if I'm concerned about, my confidence and assessing the kind of work that I'm seeing, okay, well then that's on me to get back and think about how can I redesign this assignment? How can I lean into the technology that they want to use? And instead of trying to shame them to not use it, but actually give them some tools to use it well in a way that then I can help them learn the skills I actually want them to learn. And there's ways to do that. I mean, people want to learn, people are curious, people are at school so they can become equipped and do their jobs better and move on and move up in life. And so we have this responsibility to use the tools and the technology available to us to really help them enhance that student learning. And if I need to change my paradigm, do some different things, experiment with ideas, maybe something doesn't work and we'll change it and we'll fix it, and that's okay. So I just think for me, it's been, this is where the train is headed. And if I'm going to be on the train, then I got to figure this out. And I have to be willing to take some of my sacred cows, maybe that I've always assumed are the thing that makes higher ed, and make sure that I'm not just holding on to those for the sake of holding on to those, but being willing to learn for the sake of my students and their learning.
Oh, I love that. Constant, continue your role model and continuous lifelong learning.
Yeah, that's what we want our students to do. So I better be able to do it too.
Right. Yeah. How can we expect it if we don't do it?
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Brant Himes, thank you so much for your candid thoughts about AI within the classroom, especially the online classroom that we're in. Any final thoughts you want to give to anybody before we roll out, or was that?
Yeah, I just think, I mean, I think my last thought would be, particularly for our online students, these are not just numbers on the other side of the screen. They're not just chat bots. They're in there. They have hopes and dreams and goals, and they're trying to do their best, and they're working hard. And let's engage them and help them to really appreciate this season of life that they're in to learn and grow. So I just would say lean into that responsibility. And when you feel stuck on something or the technology is unfamiliar or unsure, like, we're in this for our students. And so let's lean in and help them as much as we can.
Oh, radically student centered. I love it. Well, thanks, Dr. Himes.
Thanks for having me.